I am still currently working on this, so the grammar may be bad or the book may not be finished. I wrote this just to show you my appreciation for what you do. I do not wish to scare, startle, or distrust in any way, but I guess I already have because I wrote this. What did we do? Cotton wakes up, feeling a bit dizzy from the Halloween party she went to last night. Looking around the room, she saw the fairy light that decorated the walls, lighting up the Polaroid photos on her and her best friend Johnny. She then looked beside her to see Johnny passed out on the table, obviously drunk from the party. "Johnny," she whispered, getting up and nudging him. Now in his face, "You okay, Johnny?" To which he slowly lifted his head, his lipstick smeared on his face and his eyeliner running down his cheeks. Some fake lashes were tilted and tilted and stuck on the other parts of his face. "Shit, Johnny, what the hell happened to you?" Cotton exclaimed. Shocked at his hangover look, Johnny turned his head to face Cotton before chuckling before speaking. "You wouldn't believe you if I told you." Johnny started chuckling at the memories of what happened last night. He slowly lifted himself up from the table and finally looked Cotton in the eyes before slowly smiling and placing his hand on her shoulders. "So, what happened last night?" "The last thing I remember was doing karaoke in the bar and I bumped into some guy," Cotton stated, trying to remember the last thing she did that night. But her headache wouldn't let her remember anything else further than she just said. Johnny just slowly shook her shoulders before speaking. "You know that guy you constantly fangirl about and talk about all the time?" Cotton looks at him for a moment, tilting her head slightly, thinking how hard about what she asked. She slowly spoke, hoping to answer correctly. "The voice actor of Bod Velsep?" Cotton answered shyly. Johnny a bit before shaking his head. Cotton then guessed again, hoping her next reply is correct. "Is it StanleyNPC, the Twitch streamer I used to fawn over?" Johnny nodded, smiling even more. "Bingo, you got it, girly. That guy you bumped into was the one and only StanleyNPC, and you would never guess what you and him did." Cotton's interest peaked as her eyes widened and a big smile appeared on her face. She started to tremble in excitement and her eyes seemed to light up. Cotton was excited that she met the man she aspired to be one day. "What did we do, Johnny? What did we do? I will clean my hands after this." Yeah, same. Cotton practically yelled at Johnny, grabbing his shoulders and shaking him back and forth. She slightly jumped up and down as she did so. Johnny let her go as she was shaken vigorously. "Y'all just talked, you just talked." Johnny hollered as his head started to hurt from being shaken violently by Cotton. She stopped shaking him for a moment and smiled, her eyes seeming to sparkle. "What did we talk about?" she questioned, wanting to get an answer from him. But the answer that was given to her made her smile falter a bit, but she was still joyous of having interacted with her idol. "I didn't listen too much because I didn't want to seem weird, but I think you were talking about his editing software and how he can film his videos like he did," Johnny said, trying to not make Cotton too upset. Cotton sighs, letting him go. She reaches for her phone and looks at it for a moment before her eyes widen. "Look, Johnny." Johnny looks at his phone before looking up at her. "Dude, that's not my phone. That's not your phone, right?" Johnny started to laugh as Cotton was holding someone else's phone in her hand. Cotton, however, was panicking heavily as she tried to turn it on, but the battery seemed to have died. "You have a charger cord?" Johnny said, to which she nodded, looking at the charging port on the phone she had in her hand. "I'm kind of surprised you got someone else's phone." "Bro, what if you grabbed Stanley's phone while you were drunk?" Johnny mentioned, to which Cotton laughs before replying, "I hope not. Anyways, let's clean this place up. It looks like a trash can was raided by possums and raccoons." Cotton looks at the trash and solo cups littered around the place. Some ramen bags laid out around with a few prescription bottles were around as well. Johnny groans before climbing on the table and slumping over. "Damn it, Johnny, fine. I'll clean up once again." Where's the next part? This one just added for this was added for 2 hours ago, so when I started the stream, basically. "So sorry, this was written on such short notice due to Stanley hearing about my fanfics. Hi, Stan, I know it's cringe, let me cook. Also, totally not me having a hyperfixation. Also, hope you like the goth Stanley. Oh, on the Discord, yeah. About 30 minutes later from the last chapter. How do you have this much trash?" hollered Cotton as she held up the 20th Prime bottle. Johnny looks up at her and smiles before getting up and grabbing a bottle out of her hand. He looks at the flavor of the bottle and makes a disgusted face. Ew! That flavor is just trash, just like me, haha! Johnny jokes before Cotton rolls her eyes and yanks the bottle, tossing it into the trash bag she was holding. She sighs for a moment, and as Johnny starts to pick up some ramen bags off the floor and rummaging through the couch cushions. I don't even think you should be drinking Prime. Monster Java is so much better if you want that sing. Also, you got a higher dosage on your meds. Did those feelings come back? Cotton looked over at the trash table and went over, scooping trash into the bag she held. Johnny stopped digging through the trash and looked at her for a moment before frowning slightly. I found a $20 bill in the cushions. You want to head to the wing place after this? Johnny said, ignoring my last question. Cotton knew not to say anything more on the topic. She knew she had to tread lightly now on her next few sentences. Candy nodded before putting some more trash in the bag she held. She tied the bag off the place before looking up at Johnny. Yeah, sure, Wingstop sounds like a good idea. Anyways, is that phone charged? Cotton walked over to the phone and then clicked its power button and started to turn out. Hell yeah, let's go. She hollered before looking at Johnny. He was a word again at the idea of Cotton grabbing someone else's phone. I still can't believe you were so drunk that you grabbed someone's phone instead of your own, Johnny says, looking at the phone as the screen locks up. It was a photo of a man Cotton knew all too well. She smiled wide in her head, and her hands started to flick around as she got excited and she started to stim. It was her idol on the lock screen, Stanley MOV. Oh my god, he has long hair. I'm so used to the man bun. Cotton yells over a fangirl shriek. Johnny covered his ears for a moment before sighing. Thank God you were a shy jackass when you met him. He'd hate this side of you, man. Johnny uttered lowly, and you know how much people hate those obsessed fangirls that make fanfics? Johnny and Cotton look at the writer before Johnny looks back at Cotton. I never forgot that nightmare of the fanfic you wrote. Oh, it wasn't that bad. It was only 79 pages of Jay hanging out with Stanley. Jesus Christ. Cotton laughed. Johnny gave her the 1,000-yard stare before Cotton rolled her eyes back at the screen again. Johnny, you're good at investigating and tracking. Can you figure out how to get in this phone while I clean up? To Johnny, which nodded before grabbing his computer, plugging it into the phone. Cotton went over and grabbed the broom and started to sweep the shenanigans off the floor. Johnny was beatboxing the beatboxing the Mission Impossible tune as he started to hack into the phone. Meanwhile, Cotton continued to sweep the floor. She went down to pick up a ramen cup and tossed it in the trash. Huh? The guy has some good protection on his phone. Like, really good protection. Seems like he's hiding something on there. Well, if you were a streamer, wouldn't you want to lose your phone and get it in for stolen? Cotton said before sweeping dirt into the bag. The next part will resume in 2024, everybody.